Picture this, a company running out of space. They're above a dental office. They're 12 people and they're worth $15 million. And 8 years later, they were valued at $550 million.
That's a good glow up. I like
It's
that.
a hell of a glow up, bro. I'm Faith.
And I'm Jen.
And this is the Fine I'll Do It podcast, a podcast where we talk about women in business who did it without an app, without a trust fund, and without a rich husband.
With kids.
With kids. Did I say moms? I said moms. Erika Ayers Badan. We'll talk about why I chose her and why I think what she has to share is important, even if she didn't take the route that we would have typically talked about. I feel like typically we talk about moms who built businesses from tea boxes in their office with their kids playing around. Well, Erika didn't technically build her own business from the start. She worked in corporate and she built her career over time, and she had kids the whole time. Erika Badan was the first ever CEO of Barstool Sports. She worked there from 2016 to 2024.
Okay, I used to see a bunch of Barstool memes on the socials, but I never understood what the company was. What's the company?
Barstool Sports started as a blog above a dentist's office with 12 people, and
It was
Erika...
just a blog.
Yeah, it was just a blog. It was a sports blog. Their target audience was mostly men. And we'll get into why that is a little strange that they hired a woman. Then she was the CEO of Food 52 from 2024 to 2026. She's the author of Nobody Cares About Your Career. It's Why Failure is Good, The Great Ones Play Hurt, and Other Hard Truths. I think if you can read this book and you have the time, it is a very good book. I enjoyed it a lot. And now she has the Work podcast and writes on Substack. So she's no longer a CEO at this time after leaving Food 52 in 2026. Barstool Sports is a very male-dominated sports media company, and they hired a woman to run it. A Deadspin piece specifically called her a token CEO, the insinuation being she was only there to soften the brand's image, not because she was qualified. She named her own daily podcast Token CEO and took that insult and turned it into her own brand. She pretty much was like, oh, okay.
Oh, that's what you think?
Yeah.
Guess what? Next. Which
I love about her. I think owning it is pretty cool. And I don't think that she was hired as a token CEO.
She grew the company from
$15 million to $550 million in 8 years. That's pretty crazy. And I think in 3 years, they were worth like $440 million. So I think you could even shorten the time frame and say that in 3 years, they were worth a lot of money.
Interesting.
She's a mom. She doesn't talk about her kids much publicly. It's worth noting that she doesn't share a lot. I think a lot of it has to do with the Barstool Sports is pretty controversial, and it doesn't really fit Barstool's image. And I think that she's just more private about her family. She also went through some like not so great publicity about her most recent marriage. And I just think that she chooses to keep her family out of the spotlight.
Yep.
So we won't have a lot of the details of how she did it with kids. I think we just know that as moms, parenting is hard, and doing it while running a business or being in corporate America doesn't make it any easier. If not, it makes it harder. And I think you can extrapolate from that you just do it. And I think that's a lot of what her book talks about. I know. I chose her because I like her style. I think she has a lot to say to moms that not a lot of people are saying out loud. And I think a lot of moms need to hear a lot of her advice. Her advice is practical. It's not motivational poster stuff. For most of her career, she was building other people's companies, but what she built at Barstool is wild. It took it from a garage-type 12-person operation to a $550 million empire. In 2023, Barstool sold to Penn Entertainment, a gambling and casino company, for around $550 million. Later that same year, Penn sold it back to the founder, Dave Portnoy, for $1. Reputation. So they kept denying Penn's licensing, and it was causing a bunch of issues.
Who's Penn?
It's the company that bought Barstool Sports for $550 million. They originally had this plan that they were going to, Barstool Sports was going to also dabble into some gambling, but it turns out that the gambling board did not like that, and they were making it really difficult for them. So ultimately, Erika, Dave, and Penn decided to sell the company back to Barstool and Dave, making him the 100% owner for $1. That alone is crazy because not only did Barstool Sports make $550 million, they also got their company back for $1, are in complete control. And the deal is if Dave ever sells the business, they get 50% of the proceeds. But Dave says he'll never sell.
Okay.
Like he's like, I got it back. Never sell.
Why would they sell for? I don't understand why they'd sell for $1.
Because they realized that the partnership wasn't a good partnership. Like,
Okay.
Ultimately, I know it's complicated, but
Yeah.
that's what a kind of Erica's thing is. A lot of it is like failures teach you a lot of things, but even though that this partnership was a failure, she still grew a business from 12 million to $550 million in 8 years. That's crazy. By most accounts, the Penn Barstool marriage was considered a failure, mainly because Penn is a heavily regulated gambling company and Barstool's brash, controversial content, and Portnoy's persona specifically, kept causing problems with gambling regulators, including license denials and investigations in states like Massachusetts. Penn and Barstool were just never a match on the regulatory side. So even though the sale itself failed, it ended up positioning Portnoy to walk away owning 100% of his company for $1, and the same year he sold it for $500 million. And Erika was the one actually working the deal on both ends. That's a hell of a story on its own before we even get to everything else that she's done. Let's get into a little bit of like her origin story and how she got to be the CEO of Barstool Sports. Her parents were teachers and artists. They weren't business people. They busted tables as kids. They instilled a lot of work ethic. Erika got a sociology degree and a philosophy degree from Colby College, and she had no real plan for graduating. She thought that she'd be a lawyer. Her first job was with Fidelity Investments legal department, and she hated it. So she moved to Fidelity's creative department instead. She took a 70% pay cut, down from $50,000 to $16,000, to work at something that she actually loved to do. She got laid off from that job, and she described it as being devastating, and it felt very personal. And that day that she got laid off, she took a job as a nanny.
Hey.
Just for income, and by her own account, she was very bad at it, and she did not
Well, if
like
she's a
it.
CEO, I'm thinking about what her personality is. She's probably not like the super
Yeah.
nurturing.
Right now, at the time, she's young.
Maybe.
She's just getting into corporate America, so she was really kind of felt defeated, I think, and she really didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
And her parents didn't really set a blueprint of how to be like a CEO, but ultimately she did become one. So yeah, from there, she worked at ad agencies in Boston, Arnold Worldwide, Digital's LBI, on accounts like Volkswagen, ESPN, American Express, Delta, and then Microsoft. She worked for Demand Media, Backstage. She was the president and chief revenue officer for AOL. She was the chief marketing officer. And for Yahoo, she was the VP of branding. It was over a decade of climbing up the corporate ladder.
Okay, so she's working at all these different places.
Yeah. She climbed the corporate ladder essentially through all these huge big companies. In her own words, she was not the smartest person in the room, so she worked the hardest and stayed the most curious. In 2015, by a chance meeting, she met the Sharon Group, who were the new investors for Barstool, right as they were looking for a CEO, and she called it a sliver of a chance, and it worked. So she really, really wanted to be the CEO of Barstool Sports once she found out they were looking for a CEO, because she recognized that they were ahead of the game in marketing, that they were doing something differently than everybody else, and she wanted to be a part of that. What made her a good fit was that she recognized Barstool already had real fans, a distinct voice, and an audience moving at internet speed. So she recognized that they were ahead of the game and they were moving really quickly, and she wanted to be early in on that, and she thought it'd be a really great move for her career.
So what were they doing that was way ahead of the game?
One of the first sports podcasts. They were early into the podcast game. They are just saying it how it is, and they're getting people's attention, and they're creating a lot of loyalty. And
I used to see it a lot, and I remember thinking it was hilarious, but I was like, I have no idea what this business actually does, except they have really funny memes.
I think the only thing that Barstool Sports was doing that would apply to us at that time would have been Call Her Daddy.
Yes, that sounds familiar. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So they put Alex Cooper on the map. So they were doing things that
I see.
weren't being
This is
done
clicking
yet.
now. Okay.
Yeah. I know. So she became Barstool Sports' first ever CEO in 2016. So Barstool Sports was a very male-dominated bro sports media culture. In 2017, she tested job candidates this is the part that we probably disagree with and most people will disagree with. She would text candidates for jobs at 11 p.m. or on weekends, expecting fast replies to prove commitment. And that drew a lot of real public backlash for encouraging burnout culture. So although I think that Erika is a really cool person and I think she gives a lot of good practical advice that I think a lot of people need to hear, I don't think we need to agree with everything. I don't think that you need to text your employees at 11 to prove that they are committed. But it does.
It's kind of a savage way to weed people out.
It is savage, but I do think that I think a lot of her outlook is that like this is hard work and it is difficult and you do need to be committed and it is going to take a lot from you. And the sooner you realize that, the better.
Yeah. So that tells me a little bit about what her life was as a working mom. She sounds like
She's always on.
she's very far on one spectrum of moms in business.
I
She's
think
like,
she has dialed it back a little bit. I do think that she's like, okay, like I probably was kind of extreme. I think she is very balanced. She in her book says like Barstool Sports and herself have done a lot of controversial things that she probably wouldn't do again, but she doesn't regret it and she's not going to apologize for it. And I like that about her.
yeah.
We admire her work ethic. We don't think anyone needs to text an employee at 11 p.m. to prove commitment, but those are two different things. Despite all this, Barstool Sports grew to 300 plus employees, $550 million valuation, 5 billion plus monthly video views, 225 million followers, the top 10 US podcast publisher, 35 plus brands launched, including Pat McVeigh, Call Her Daddy, and Buzzin' with the Boys. So Penn Entertainment buys Barstool for $550 million. She personally worked the deal on a compressed timeline, a lot of secrecy, late nights, negotiating between the investor and the company. And then later that same year, Dave Portnoy buys back Barstool for $1. She helped negotiate both sides, says it was more surreal, but much easier on the second sale. Getting it back to Dave was much easier than it was to sell to Penn. Around the same time, her father is diagnosed with terminal cancer. He passes away in late March 2024, and she said she idolized him and was grateful she had stepped away from. So after this, she left Barstool Sports and she moved to Food 52.
Okay.
Which is her next CEO gig. In Food 52, she was hired to kind of bring it back, to save it. And so that inevitably ended up failing. It ended up not being able to be saved. And she ended up having to go through Chapter 11 bankruptcy with
Dang.
that company.
That must have been hard to swallow after all the success.
Well, yeah. So around the time that her dad passes away and she goes to Africa to reset for the first time in years, she wasn't glued to her phone. And she was very, very like, that was life. Like she was just like, wow. So she takes a year off. So, but when she comes back in April 2024, she becomes the CEO of Food 52. It's a food and home media e-commerce, and it also owns Schoolhouse and Dansk. Don't ask me what those companies were. I didn't look too much into it.
Sounds familiar.
It was essentially a turnaround job. It was a company that was in trouble and needed help. So she cuts $20 million plus cost over 19 months trying to get it to be profitable. She meets a bank called Avid Bank and it seems to be productive. On December 15th, with zero warning, Avid sweeps all of Food 52's cash. So they had no cash flow to pay payroll, tax funds, everything. She called it an unheard of and unprecedented situation. So on December 17th, she lays off 60% of her staff. December 26th, she lays off another 20%. And this isn't in her book. Terrible. This is just extra information that I'm sharing. She described it as a total closure. They knocked out 80% of the business in like a week. On December 29th, 2025, they filed Chapter 11 in Delaware with a $25 million plus in debt. She spends the holiday break during this Chapter 11 bankruptcy at her parents' house in Vermont, working from a desk in her mom's home office right next to her 13-year-old daughter's pile of oversized sweatshirts, stuffed animals, and press-on nails. She says plainly it was not a Zen holiday. She says quitting was the most tempting option on the table in that 2 weeks, that she would have loved to quit, but she decided that quitting just wasn't who she was and that she was going to see it through. Because like being brought on as a CEO of a company to turn it around and then ultimately failing after being this amazing success story for Barstool Sports, like it's like the ups and the downs of
being in business.
Even if you're a business owner, if you're in corporate America, like it's inevitable. Like you're going to have successes and you're going to have failures. And I think that's what she talks about a lot, is owning failure and taking it and not seeing it as a personal, like you're not a bad person, you're not a bad business, you're learning, and it doesn't matter where you are on the scale or how high up you are, you're going to fail. And the sooner that you own it publicly, the more admirable it is. Like I had a situation that I told you about at the Village, my business this weekend, and somebody had a complaint and I immediately owned it, and I thanked them for their advice and their critique, and I'm gonna own it and I'm gonna fix it. Instead, I feel like some people would choose to like be offended or hurt, and at the end of the day, what does being offended or hurt do for you?
Right. Right.
doesn't really do anything for you, and they probably are being very honest, and what they are saying probably is true, and you had a failure and take it and do better.
Yeah,
And, like, it's
it's
kind of a whole thing.
constantly a learning experience in business. And also, being the CEO, she obviously the responsibility does fall to the CEO and you're leading the team, but it is also a team. Like
Yeah.
you're not doing all the work. So I mean, I know that you have to own it. Like this is your company, but also like she's coming in to save a company that was clearly not
Yeah.
doing well.
Right.
I feel like so you can't pull it off. I mean,
Yeah.
is that really like a huge failure? Like,
Yeah, then that's what she's kinda saying. Like, she could easily a lot of people probably would take it personally, and you don't need to. That
yeah,
it is still a success. Like, she is still successful, she still did the job, and she continued going through one of the hardest things that you can do as a business, which is file Chapter 11 bankruptcy, especially when you're dealing with that type of money. The amount of accounting and, like, that was
ooh,
what she was
yeah,
saying is, like,
that'd be
you're
stressful.
doing the same cash flow counting every single day for, like, 30 days, like, cash flow cuts, cash flow cuts, cash flow cuts, and it's very intense, and she says that she actually ends up really liking bankruptcy people. She says that they are very efficient, very,
She's like, you guys want to go into
they're doing
business?
one of the hardest jobs there is to do in business, but they show up and they're like, "Hey, how you doing? Everything's gonna be all right, you know, like, we're only losing $25 million, you know?" And they're pretty cutthroat, but they kept their head down and did the job, and she says that she really appreciates that.
Hmm.
She ranks this bankruptcy as the hardest thing she's done professionally, harder than an IPO, 3 company sales, or any asset deal. What she says she actually learned is that it came down to precision, not vision, the same grinding cash flow question over and over. She came to respect the lawyers, the bankers doing the work, calling them good under pressure.
Dude, that would be very hard to separate, obviously, her from her past success. And just thinking about anything that you're going through right now, it would be hard to have that, I guess, clarity that this isn't a failure. But she's like, obviously took something away from it. She learned. And
Yeah,
even though you do have to start over,
yeah.
yeah,
I
you're
see
taking something with you.
I see people I've seen and met so many people who have started businesses and failed and started over and succeeded and failed and then succeeded and failed, and at the end of the day, I think it's all a success.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many people out there who don't do anything.
Yes, I was just going to say that. I was like, you don't let the critics who are never doing anything bring you down or like
Yeah, and the only
discourage
way
you
to
from
learn is
trying.
by failing.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is a whole episode is about failure, I'm so sorry.
Happy Monday.
Sorry, but the Nobody Cares About Your Career. I'll give you a quick summary. It's Why Failure is Good, The Great Ones Play Hurt, and Other Hard Truths. It's a part memoir, part career playbook written for her Barstool experience. The central premises is nobody is coming to manage your career for you, not a boss, not a mentor, not a company. So the sooner you take full ownership of it, the sooner you'll actually get somewhere. I think a lot of people I am guilty of this myself, is being a young person in any sort of business or any sort of leadership. I was very confused about my role. I didn't always have the best leaders, and I took a lot of things personally. But now that I look back, I wish I would have kind of been like, I am a people pleaser. I would feel a lot of guilt about somebody else's businesses failing and like things like that. And I think if I would have just owned my failures more in some of my career and just been like, yeah, I failed and this is what I've learned for it and this is what I'm going to do better, the people who I was working with probably would have admired that a lot more. And not that I didn't do that, because I did sometimes, but it took me a long time to learn that. Anyways, she reframes failure as tuition, not a verdict. She's reframing that a failure is not a judgment of your character or personality. It is the tuition that is college, that is the learning moment. Like I
Yeah.
don't know anybody learning by succeeding all the time. Like, you can't
Yes, that
if you're successful all the time, what did you learn?
also
I
no
don't
one's successful all
No,
the time.
nobody's successful all the time, like, success is great, but I think if you're successful all the time, you start to get a false sense of security, and if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because inevitably something will fail and something
Something's
will go
gonna
wrong, and if you don't
miss.
embrace the failures in business, then whenever you actually do hit a really big failure, it can be really detrimental because you don't know how to
You
handle
don't know
it
how to go through problem solving.
right.
Yeah, which every business has
Or you
issues.
quit.
Yeah.
If you the second you fail, if you are yeah, I think Obama said it. He said, "Don't take the criticism too seriously and don't take the compliments too seriously. Just do and learn and be who you are and fail and because they don't know anything."
Yeah.
only you do about what you're doing.
Nobody understands what you're going through more than you do.
Embrace the suck. Hard, boring, unglamorous effort is most of the job. The people who make it aren't the ones who avoid the grind, they're the ones who do it anyway. Rare chances are worth taking, even if they are not the safe choice. She's written about people who turned down a shot at joining Barstool early on and regretted it for decades. Her point, you can rarely get genuinely rare opportunity back once it's gone, even if it looks risky on paper. So she's a big proprietor of taking risks, even if maybe it's not the best idea, but inevitably you will learn from it.
You gotta try or you might miss your moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I definitely am one of those who did that.
You just jumped on it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, "That's too good, like, that doesn't happen. That opportunity doesn't happen. We're gonna do it."
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people disagreed with me. My husband, my mom, everybody I know was like, "That sounds like not a good idea." But
For what?
for me to start the village. Well, they were scared because this is the Napa Valley.
But
Like, how are
they're
you gonna
yeah.
start a business when the wine industry is in a total plummet? But somebody came to me and well, I went to them, but they said, "Here's a tasting room. Here's my wine to sell. You can make it whatever you want." That does not happen.
Mhm. Everything was lining up. You did your test.
And I did my A/B testing,
Yeah,
and
you did
then
your testing
yeah.
before fully launching, so you knew you had a good idea. There's a concept for sure.
Yeah. So some of my takeaways is if you're a mom with no plan and feel behind because of it, start anywhere. Her path was never linear. She just kept saying yes to the next thing. That's most of her career was she just kept going. She openly admitted that she wasn't the smartest person in the room, but she showed up and she was curious. And I think that says a lot. I think a lot of people are scared to start because they don't know where to start. But I think, again, as we've heard from all of these moms that we've talked about, is that starting, no matter what, is the where to go.
Also, a lot of these moms that we've talked about have had a failed business
Yeah.
or something didn't work out. Like you said, everybody has failure.
Yeah, and I think
It's not the
it's
end. A lot
very
of times
scary,
it's
like, being a
a
especially
stepping
being a
stone.
parent and starting a business and investing a lot of money, to fail kinda makes you feel like, "Oh, like, that could affect my child's entire livelihood." But also, I could go work somewhere and get a job and still get fired and still ruin my entire life as well. So,
Or you could stay in healthcare and be miserable. Like my husband was like, "Thank God when I finally stopped."
yeah.
He was like, You're like the worst version of yourself when you're
You
doing
can
that."
be scared to start something, especially as a mom. It can feel like when you go to start a business and you invest all this money and you know it's gonna take a lot of time away from your kids, it can be kind of difficult. I feel guilty about it all the time. I'm like, if my business fails, I just blew $79,000.
What would you have learned from it?
Exactly. Nothing. I would have been working at another winery, being overworked, not spending that much time with my kids, or I could be a stay-at-home mom. That's not really my personality.
But you would have always wondered, what if I did that? I'm a huge advocate for you're thinking about it, you've got the idea, try like I would always regret not trying something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
I feel like that's worse than to fail, than to be like, what if I would have done that thing that somebody else now did
I
that's now successful?
personally, I kinda enjoy failing. I'm like, "Yeah, we did it."
I
They
mean, I'm a
did.
optimist. I don't love a failure.
I'm just
But
proud,
yeah.
you
But
know?
we gotta do it. That's the point.
Yeah, if you're building a business and don't want to burn your team out, work as hard as you want for yourself, but don't confuse an 11 PM text reply with real commitment. How she was running things is not the way I would do it,
Same. I would not do that.
so don't get confused. Like, work as hard as you possibly can and be there for your team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't agree with everything everybody does. And treat failure as tuition, not a verdict, and take the rare, scary opportunity instead of the safe one when it actually shows up. Yeah, and that's all I have on Erika Ayers Badan. I think she's a pretty badass lady.
I want to check out Substack. I'm not very familiar with Substack yet. It's like the new blogging. But yeah, I would be down to follow what
She's
she's doing
a
there.
lot of great advice. I wonder if I have any of it highlighted. Vision sets apart the people who can get their heads out of their asses and see a world, a possibility, an opportunity, or a mission that is beyond where they stand and who they are today. Like, I just like the way she talks. Okay. Many of you have a ridiculous expectations that someone will shepherd you through your professional journey, that you'll somehow be handed a golden ticket, or that you'll always be able to rely on helping hands or someone smarter to make your decisions for you. That's a fantasy. It's on you, and nobody else is there to oversee your success and prevent you from failure. Anyone who thinks otherwise is either delusional, entitled, or both. I think there is something to be said about that because I think we're going in a direction where everybody thinks that things are just gonna be magic because that's what you're shown on the internet, and I think that's why she hates it so much, is you're kinda shown on the internet, like, these people just magically succeeding, and I think we all know that even, like, the Alex Earls and the Alex Coopers of the world, in reality, they're working their butts off,
Yeah.
and, like, but that's the thing with these mompreneurs and these, like or these, like,
Sorry,
the
mom.
mom influencers of the world is that they're kinda showing you these easy like, "Oh, it's so easy, like, it's never hard, like, here's my course." Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, like, here's
There's a lot of people wanna be comfortable for work, and if it's not comfortable, they don't work,
yeah,
and I think she's calling that out
yeah,
pretty hard.
yeah. If you're uncomfortable, that's fine, but you still have to do the job that you're paid to
Yeah,
do.
and that's not how it sounds like her whole story is how to get to the top and how to make things happen, and that's never
Yeah,
gonna work if you're soft, basically.
pretty
She's
much.
like, "You
Yeah,
can't be
and
soft."
like this says, even though I felt unqualified, had gaps I needed to speak to and had things I didn't know how to do yet, I made up for it with energy and enthusiasm, a point of view on the product and service, and a vision for what I could do to help. She says, "There was no meeting I wouldn't go to, no plane I wouldn't take, no place I wouldn't go. This was exhausting, but it was critical to delivering value and making an impact and being considered. I thought it taught me the value of mastering the small things even when I was overwhelmed by the big things. It also taught me the value of showing up and the importance and respect of making the effort to be in the room." And I think that probably a lot of this stuff comes from her being a mom. You show up and you get the job done, like, no matter what. Like, that's something that
Yeah.
you learn as a mom is that it's hard, it's never gonna get easier. I think we know that. There's no easy button for parenting, and I think once you realize that, you can adapt that over into anything you do.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's Erika Ayers Badan, and I highly recommend her book.
Nice. We'll add it to the book list.
Yeah. We'll link it. We'll put it
Yeah,
in the
it'll be linked.
blog.
Cool. Well done.
Thanks.